Hey, what's up? I have been playing Souls-like games ever since the first Dark Souls was released on PC back in 2012. Over the years, I've witnessed all sorts of cheap traps designed to punish the reckless explorer, and I've grown quite proficient at avoiding them. You may even call me somewhat of an expert. That was until Nioh 2 introduced a terrifying new enemy that decimated a large part of the community. Not only do they make the perfect ambusher lying in wait on the ceiling, they're also quite terrifying in combat. I must confess that I've fallen prey to it an embarrassing number of times. I am not an expert anymore. I am brute. Before you can encounter the Snake Ladies, you must first select a mission from the world map. Main missions will progress the story, while side missions are generally just bonus filler content. Most of the time, side missions reuse areas from the main missions, but with a twist, like going through the level backwards. But occasionally, you get to experience areas from the first game, which is a clever use of assets, since fans of the first game will be overcome with nostalgia upon seeing the familiar areas again. Such dearly beloved areas like the cursed village riddled with spiderwebs, or the yokai-infested forest high up in the mountains, to name a few. We must be grateful to Team Ninja for letting us experience the good times all over again. Anyways, as mentioned earlier, only main missions will progress the story. Do not make the same mistake I did, thinking you need to complete every side mission to fill up this progress bar to unlock New Game Plus. I'm not sure if anything even happens when you do, besides the sense of accomplishment. The only way to unlock New Game Plus is by completing all the main missions and beating the final boss. With every plus added to New Game Plus, the game becomes less Souls-like and more of an action RPG in the style of Path of Exile or Diablo. Boss fights will be less about the challenge and more about seeing how fast you can get their item drops, which you'll be seeing plenty of. Too many, in fact. It hurts to think how much time I've wasted sorting through the trash when the inventory got full.
Old people eat nene.
This happened quite often, given how small it is.
Target acquired.
Yeah, boy.
The story in this game made me feel like I was back in high school, when this one time I neglected to do my homework and had to pretend I knew what everyone was talking about to escape the teacher's notice. It turns out that nervously sweating while avoiding eye contact raises quite a bit of suspicion. Now I'm pretending to know why my character doesn't talk. Sure, it might be related to the main villain's attempt to spawn camp him as a child, but that doesn't make the cutscenes any less awkward, especially when someone addresses or asks him a question. He just stands there, doing nothing.
I'm Tokichiro. And you are?
Ma che vuoi? Diglielo! Ah.
Hide. Alright.
I am also pretending to know all these different characters that appear without much introduction to say a few words, then leave, never to be seen again. I get that people are busy, they got places to be, and time spent explaining the lore to gaijins is time better spent improving other aspects of the game, such as the gameplay. There is, however, one famous historical figure that I didn't need to pretend to know. One that Ubisoft loves so much, they made him the main character in one of their games. I had a great time hanging out with Yasuke and reminiscing on all the blunders the company made before the game's release, even pissing off the Japanese government along the way. Same as the first game, the shrine you pray at becomes your spawn point. Kodama are also back, well hidden throughout the levels. Each one you find will return to your shrine. Each one also comes with its own noise-making instrument. Finding all of them unlocks a buff of your choice for the current chapter. In the next chapter, you'll have to start all over again. The only downside is your shrine turning into a daycare center, not to mention the accompanying sounds. Throughout the game, you will encounter NPCs that will chat your ear off about random things, which you will probably forget as soon as they're done talking, with one exception that you'll find hidden in the sewers. He's about to starve and in dire need of something to eat, but the only options available are regular and premium bowls of shit. So you offer it to him and he reluctantly accepts, each serving tastier than the last, each dopamine hit more potent. He had developed an addiction. There's even an achievement for that. After parting ways, you eventually meet him again in the Interim, a place where NPCs go after they die. And the first thing he does is beg for more. Goes to show that in the Neo universe, your addiction follows you into the afterlife. That's some amazing world building.
Real gangster. When I run up on you with the strap, give up the purse, the wallet, the shoes, the keys, the watch. If you don't, I'ma have to hit you up with the K, the shotty, the hammer, the Drake, the Glock. We gon' hop up in the whip and we gon' slide up on these rats, these punks, these cats, the foes, the ops. On a run from 5-0, 12, the cops. If I find out you snitching, then you get popped.
4 new weapons have been added. It may not seem like much at first glance, but considering that each weapon comes with the usual 3 stances, you have quite a lot of options at your disposal. High stance with slow heavy hitting swings, low stance with fast hitting combos, and mid stance with something in between. And an active reload system that will recharge your stamina faster, which will also purify miasma that demons leave lying around. And a skill tree that will further increase the moveset for each stance. And demon transformation and soul cores. Every demon you defeat can drop a soul core, which can be equipped to grant you one of their moves. This includes bosses. Some moves range from a developer's poorly disguised fetish to why would I use anything else. Needless to say, you can consider yourself lucky if you remember even half of these systems during a fight. But why would you run up to enemies when you can deal with them from afar? I've done that plenty of times during the first game. This time, I've decided to explore the ranged options. Guns let you snipe enemies from afar and also deal a lot of damage to bosses if your aim is good enough. Magic has an amazing synergy with soul cores, and with the right build, hitting enemies with your spells will recharge your soul core, meaning you will always have an extra ability to deal damage with.
Hello there.
The variety of boss fights is the highlight of the game. Bosses come in all shapes and sizes, from small to big, from horns to horny. Anyways, since we're on the subject, I gotta ask, fellas, is it weird to fall in love with a house? Nothing as serious as the ones who fell in love with cars or amusement rides. It's just that I did some renovating recently, so I've come to appreciate good craftsmanship. Just look at the large, spacious rooms, the amazing roof work, and the esoteric security system. They all make for great reasons to move in today. The fight itself is absolute garbage, one of the worst fights in the game. The timeline in Neo is not as straightforward as you might expect. First of all, the events of the second game lead up to the first. You even encounter the protagonist of the first game toward the end of the story. With each subsequent DLC, we travel further back in time. In the first DLC, you meet the previous wielder of your legendary demon-slaying weapon, and you'll get to experience how badass he was firsthand, as he kicks your ass in the arena. Most of the bosses usually have a resistance to one element, encouraging you to try other spells. This guy is resistant to all of them. I was severely underleveled for this fight, and casting all the spells I had barely got him to second phase. So I had to change my build to more defensive spells and engage him in close combat. This was the first and last time I've experienced such a brutal difficulty spike. The second DLC is fairly uneventful. You get to hang out with some famous historical figures and clear out the streets of homeless people, or yokai as they're called over there. There's also a side mission where you can fight that one guy from Warrior's Abyss. In the last DLC, you arrive at the point when it all started. Your mom and uncle had decided to settle down in a remote village. They were welcomed with open arms at first, but eventually your uncle got into a heated argument with the villagers. Some harsh words were exchanged, but they'll probably work it out given enough time.
Spirit stones, help me bring about mankind's ruin. Grant me my wish.
Your mom thinks otherwise, so she asks for your help to stop him. Turns out, she was the one who forged the magic sword you kept seeing, and with its help, you persuade your uncle to stop. Also, it appears that you either kill the final boss, possibly retconning the whole story and yourself out of existence, or he lives and now has a reason to spawn camp you as a child. Overall, great DLCs, fun for the whole family. So, you finished the main story a few times, cleared all the DLC, and still haven't had enough? Luckily for you, there's the Underworld, which unlocks only a New Game Plus 4. The Underworld is a late game dungeon with 108 floors and has the potential to add another 100 hours to your playtime. This might seem like a lot, but when compared to the Underworld of the first game, which had 1000 floors, it's obviously lacking in content and a clear sign of how lazy and complacent the devs have become. Anyways, when I reached this point, I was severely burned out and barely made it to floor 15 before quitting, which is still significantly higher than the average, given the low number of people who beat the final boss. The game loop is very simple. Each floor is randomly generated. Your task is to find the Kodama hidden throughout and receive a random buff. Then you have the choice between looking for the other 3 buffs or jumping straight to the boss arena. After beating the boss, it saves your progress, so you can leave and return to the next floor anytime you wish. Or you can jump straight to the next floor and repeat the process all over again. 108 times. Good luck and have fun. Thank you for watching, dear viewer. I've been nurturing this brain parasite on and off for months now, and it feels great to finally have it out. See you next time.